could be terrible at sales, you could have a terrible product, but if the market's there, the market will pull you. Now, even if the market's decent, the next thing is actually having an offering or product that works.
Mindset is really important because when I was starting off my dropshipping stores, I was just so caught up with, oh, what's the winning product, winning ads? How do I find this winning formula for like my Krabby Patty recipe, you know?
Surrounding yourself with the right people is critical, and also keeping that internal discipline, if you will, on, hey, I'm never gonna stop doing this, and if I do trust the process and trust the reps, results will come, which means taking a long-term mindset. But I do think ultimately you will shift your circles, you will be around different people based on your goals, and that's not a bad thing. You know, again, you don't have to go up to someone in the past and say, hey, never talk to me again, I'm breaking up with you. Society is crabs, but that means you can surround yourself with people who aren't crabs, because they do exist.
Why did you start PeakFlow, Marcus? What drives you? Why are you doing all of this? I think it really just comes down to, hey, what is going on, guys? Welcome, welcome, welcome. I have a very special guest next to me, Arjun from DOOLA. What is going on, my friend? I want to make this video to start off our course introduction to let you guys know that PeakFlow has officially partnered with DOOLA as our LLC creation services. So if you guys have any LLC questions, whether you're from international, domestic, wherever you are, might be, and you need to start an LLC, we're gonna pass it off to DOOLA, where I think they have free consultations as well.
Absolutely, we're stoked to be teaming up. Again, I think that anyone starting a business, it is one of the most rewarding things, but also the most stressful, because you have to navigate LLCs, C Corps, sales tax certificates, registered agents, state tax filings, federal tax filings, bookkeeping, accounting. What are even those terms? None of that is actually building your business. So we exist to help you handle that unsexy yet critical back office, so that you can learn from the PeakFlow team on actually how to start and scale your business. So we're stoked to team up. You can absolutely schedule a free consultation. There's no strings attached to chat about formation, banking, taxes, bookkeeping, anything on your mind. And we cannot wait to be a part of this journey with y'all. Really excited to team up.
Thank you, bro. So what got you started into like finding DOOLA? Like, how did that vision even come about?
I'm imagining your reaction when I say this. Some people say, I feel bad for you. Others laugh. But we spent 30 grand setting up our first company.
30 grand setting up just like the LLC stuff.
Right. Sounds silly. But we got into Y Combinator. They gave us $250,000. First time getting an investment, incredible. But then you don't know what you don't know. So the lawyer said, hey, you have this non-US entity. You have to flip it to a Delaware C Corp, because investors will only invest in the C Corp. And that's complex. Lawyers charge by the hour.
Right.
So they have a bill. And then you also need to get someone to do your bookkeeping, because I didn't even know what bookkeeping really was. But okay, that's something I need to pay for. Then taxes, let me pay for that too. Then registered agent. And then next thing you know, you're getting these invoices from lawyers. And then the next thing you know, and this was the worst part or the best part, the business failed. So down 30K, I'm dealing with 5 different things: payroll, bookkeeping, accounting. And then the biggest thing that was eating at me though was imagining, what if, or what could I have done differently to stop the business from failing? And what if I just spent more time on it and I wasn't bogged down by all this other back office? And it was at that moment, the light bulb was like, wait a second, thinking of what to do next, don't know what to build, but I know for sure, or I thought for sure, we're gonna have to pay $30,000 again. And then we thought, wait a second, no you don't. You know that Staples easy button, like click it, that was easy. Why can't you do that for a business where you click a button, automate company formation, that's paperwork at the end of the day, so you can simplify that. And then in one place, I don't want 4 people, I want one place where my taxes, my bookkeeping, the entire company is taken care of. And using automation, but also having one point of contact, you can handle all the unsexy yet critical back office, so that the entrepreneur can focus on building the business. And they can do what they do best, which is building the product or marketing or selling. And then we handle the back office. So that was how it began. DOOLA does not cost $30,000. We learned the hard way. But now the goal is, okay, how do you do this for people, not just in the US, but outside the US? Because companies at the time wouldn't serve you unless you had a social security number. And how do you... So again, it's not just starting the business, but helping you scale it too. So formation step 1, but the goal is to, become a millionaire. And then from there, you want to make more money.
100%.
So how do you do that? You have to handle your bookkeeping. You have to handle and have an insight into your finances. And you need to stay compliant at the end of the day too. So that's the long story short about how we got here.
Yeah.
That was one of the most expensive lessons of my life. But it ended up birthing DOOLA, if you will.
100%. I could relate being down in debt and then trying to find your way out through that. I think we all as founders and entrepreneurs have our own fair share of that story. My question is, how did you not see it coming? If you don't mind me asking, like 30K, like you definitely would have saw maybe like loss of 5K, 10. Like how did you not see it?
We knew it was going to be expensive because the lawyer said up front, hey, to do this type of flip with the IP from a European company coming to a US company, I think they quoted us at least 10K there. the first part. We knew, okay, it's about 10K, but we didn't know what we didn't know. So lawyers were charging that. We didn't want to get it wrong. It didn't seem like an option to DIY that. So at least the first bill coming in was okay. We know it's going to be about that much. Then the next thing is, okay, getting someone who does your dedicated bookkeeping. That was another 3 to 5K, I would say.
Oh my God.
Then the next is someone to do your taxes. That was another 2 to 5K. And then if you keep adding things up, the payroll processing and honestly, even the time I spent thinking about all those things very quickly approached 30K. Every time you email your lawyer, they're billing by the hour too. More fees are racking up as well. So I definitely knew it was going to cost money, but I think zooming out, it really didn't have to cost that much. But I think part of it was because something like DOOLA didn't exist.
Right.
So I feel it does feel silly. Like at the end of the day, like, holy crap, there was so much money and time spent on something which didn't lead to building something people want or need, and the business didn't work. But out of that, knowing, wait a second, there's got to be other people out there where I actually think before you can go 0 to 1 and find product market fit, it doesn't matter if you're raising venture capital or if you're selling dog toys on Amazon, you have to go -1 to 0. And I think step 1 is the mindset of how do you do this? Can I do this? Breaking out of the shackles of what society will think, building the mindset yourself, putting yourself in your future state before you actually do it. But then the other thing is this mental hurdle or inertia of thinking, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an accountant, I'm not a CPA, I don't know how to set up a Shopify store, I'm not cut out for this. No, that's okay. You don't need to be an expert in that. You can find and trust someone else who can do that for you,
Right.
so you can focus on your unique advantages. But overcoming that hurdle, I think, is the biggest thing. The biggest battle, I actually think, isn't in your store setup, it's in your mind. And companies like DOOLA, like PeakFlow, actually, I think, are enabling people to overcome that inertia so they can succeed. And I think that's powerful because you're actually creating entrepreneurs. And I think a world with more entrepreneurs is a better place.
100%. That's so deep, man. I really resonate with how you said that mindset is really important, because when I was first starting getting into business, when I was starting off my dropshipping stores, I was just so caught up with, oh, what's the winning product? Winning ads? How do I find this winning formula for like my Krabby Patty recipe, you know? And as I continue progressing on into my entrepreneurial journey, I'm engaging with more students in my community, I'm engaging with other entrepreneurs. You realize that the core of it does go down to mindset. It's so cliche and it's so overlooked, but it's exactly what you said in how you go from 0 to -1 and then you bounce and find your way. Like for me, I was actually in over 200,000 in debt. And it was a really scary moment. It took a really long time for me to be able to like even just admit that, like, wow. And part of the first question I'm asking myself is all the time, like, how did I not see it coming? It sounds so obvious, so silly, but it's like, really, how did I not see it coming? For me, it was when I started finding momentum in a winning product, low ticket. I was doing low ticket. I couldn't find success with Facebook ads, but I found this S curve, this untapped market in Google, and I was running it up, but I didn't truly understand business. I didn't understand fulfillment. I didn't understand good product. I just had marketing. I just got lucky. And through that, especially because I was young, I let a lot of my arrogance get into the best of me. I start upping my lifestyle. I don't know if you can relate, but once you start seeing a little extra money in the bank account, you're trying to, live a little fly. I'm about that good life. But that ended up catching up to me. Bad customer service ended up catching up to me. Fulfillment ended up catching up to me. And then all of a sudden, everything's just blown up all at once. I went from like plus 200 to like negative and just kept on going. And I had to like stop the bleeding. So my question for you was, how did you feel when you were in your stop the bleeding point? It's like, oh my God, like we're not at rock bottom, but we're damn close and it better be up moving forward. What was that moment like for you with DOOLA?
There are two perspectives I remember being in that moment. If I put myself back in time there, the first is the external, then there's the internal. I'll start with the external. There's this analogy which has really resonated with me, which is a bit morbid, but I think it's the truth about society, which is society is like a bucket of crabs. And you might have heard this, but if you take a bucket of crabs and you have a bucket of crabs, there's a bunch of crabs in there. If one crab actually starts to climb to get out of the bucket, do you know what the other crabs do? They pull it down, they'll break its leg. Why? Because they don't want that other crab escaping. And it sounds so morbid, and you might think, no, that can't be society, but I think that is the truth in society. And the reason why is because we are social animals. We want to be part of the tribe. It's wired into us since the hunter-gatherer days. You want to fit in. It's literally wired into our DNA. But the second someone in the group starts to break away, it's threatening. And what's threatening is it's threatening to the other people saying, wait a second, what? They're going after this thing? Why? Why are they doing it and I'm not? It's actually, I think, threatening to you as an individual. It's why it's easier to gossip about others, because it's easier to identify flaws in others than flaws in yourself. It's just wired into who we are. But externally, I remember at that time when this first business was failing, honestly, the biggest crabs, and it feels so messed up to say, but like my parents were crabs in some sense. They're always supportive of me, but I remember in the best intentions, my mom saying, hey, maybe you should, go back to school, or maybe you should get a job. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. Maybe I should, but I didn't start this journey to go do that. And hearing that from, someone who is supportive of you, but at the same time wants the best, that's tough. So externally, there's that. There's thinking about one of my friends thinking, or what are other people thinking. I remember being in the YC batch, other companies actually succeeding, going out to raise money, and being there, having to shut down the company, having nothing to show, thinking, maybe I'm not cut out for this. That's a dark period. Now, I think overall, though, at the time, this comes back to the intrinsic or the inside. I think the biggest thing about the mindset then was, one, you have to believe in yourself. Belief comes before ability. If you don't believe in yourself, how are you going to do it? And some people say fake it till you make it. I think you can't really fake it. You're an imposter, but you have to take the small action. And then when you take the action, you get the confidence.
Right.
So in that moment, I remember thinking, okay, if I trust the process and put in the reps here, the results will come. It's probably going to be wildly inefficient to start. It's like when you're at the gym and you do 100 reps, a lot of those reps might be junk reps because no one taught you how to actually squat, but you're going to get more results than the person sitting on the couch.
Absolutely.
So likewise that, I remember thinking, okay, if I trust the process here and I spend less time on the back office and more doing the thing, I believe in myself. I think we'll see the results. And over time, you dial in the efficiency, but I think the volume and the reps and the work comes first. So I think internally, and what you said earlier does resonate. Anytime I feel like I've thought, oh, maybe I've made it, it's dangerous because the truth is entrepreneurship, health, any of these things, it's not like a video game where you get to press pause. In a video game, you can press pause, you can go have dinner, come back in 2 weeks, you're at the same level. I actually think in entrepreneurship and in health, there's lots of parallels. If you're not making progress, you're going backwards. There's no treading water. You're either drowning or you're keeping afloat. There is no pressing pause. And that can sound very scary, very intimidating, but I think this is where the internal comes, where you can't ease up. Yes, you have to imagine yourself in the next state. That doesn't mean, hey, maybe when you started the business, you're only eating ramen. Now you can maybe actually go to a restaurant every once in a while. So it doesn't mean you can do those things now that you've made more progress in the business. But that, I think, is the single biggest thing, is that everything that got you to where you are today, you're going to have to continue doing that going forward, which then becomes, wait a second, you're telling me that entrepreneurship it's like chewing glass, or it's like digging into a mountain or climbing a mountain. And then every time you climb the mountain, you realize it was a false summit and there's another peak. Why would I want to do that? That sounds kind of miserable. I thought I get to climb the mountain and make it. Then I actually think the truth is you end up liking to climb mountains.
Yeah.
And that's entrepreneurship.
It's the process. That's what people refer to.
I think about the process is sometimes people do say it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. I think in some cases, that's the part of that which is BS, is that the destination matters. The destination is why you go out of your house in the morning. You're saying my destination is the gym. Why? Because I want to get in shape. The destination is I'm going to go sit at my desk. Why? Because I want to build the business. So the destination does matter. It does matter where you're heading to, but you have to actually, I think, start to enjoy the process. You might not like it every day. I actually think most of the day you won't like it. You don't want to wake up and send emails. You don't want to wake up and work out, but you will start to enjoy the process. And I think that comes because you start to see results. You start to see, wait, I did this input, I got this output. That's kind of addicting. I want more. You get addicted to the progress and the results. So society is crabs, but that means you can surround yourself with people who aren't crabs, because they do exist. It's hard to find. That's other entrepreneurs, other people learning to sell on e-commerce, other people going through that journey, people maybe a year ahead of you or 5 years ahead of you, people behind too. It doesn't matter. I think everyone's in the same boat, but surrounding yourself with the right people is critical. And also keeping that internal discipline, if you will, on, hey, I'm never going to stop doing this. And if I do trust the process and trust the reps, results will come, which means taking a long-term mindset. But easier said than done. It's easy to say now, but the biggest thing is waking up tomorrow and doing it all over again.
That's a great point. And a lot of thoughts raced through my mind as you were speaking. One of the biggest points I want to point out, I really resonate how you said that you're either progressing or digressing. I think that's a very overlooked framework, because many people think that you just rise to the top and everything just stops. The only time things stop is when there's an end to it, upon death. And I've been in many relationships before in my past, and I actually told this to one of my exes before. It was kind of like, we can't stay in the same spot, right? Any relationship, not just in our relationship, friendships, business relationships, you're either progressing or digressing, in the sense that every great body of water is ever flowing. Does that make sense? Like every beautiful landscape of water, the best water on the earth is in a constant flow. And I see a lot of metaphoric value when thinking about, life, earth, and spirituality. And for me, when it comes to entrepreneurship, I think that it is also a battle of self-improvement. It's a battle of self-improvement every day, which is why I actually want to follow up and ask you, as you were speaking upon, you know, enjoying the process, how some days you're not gonna want to get up and do it. I actually want to ask, in your opinion, how would you define love? Because for me, I'll tell you why I ask it is because a lot of people think that love, relationships, friendships, business, it's just gonna feel good at every moment. And I would argue that love is actually more of how much are you willing to sacrifice for it? You know, whether that's your girlfriend, spouse, business. For me, whenever I say no to going out with my friends and hang out, because trust me, there's many times I want to, I just can't do it right now, because then that means I'm saying no to what matters, which is my business. And that's the sacrifice, and that's the love for it. Not every single day is going to be merry and sunshine. I'm going to feel great. You're going to have rainy days, but it's that love that keeps you going. It's that sacrifice. How do you feel, or how would you define it? What are your thoughts?
I was not expecting to define that question or define love. That's deep. I think ultimately it's hard to define, but I think it's the visceral feeling of I enjoy this. And it's those moments when I feel like I'm truly present. So I love that book. Why? Because I was immersed in it. Or I loved that wedding because I was surrounded by people a beautiful moment and the people around me. I loved that chapter of the business. Why? Because we got punched in the face, but we figured out a solution,
Yes.
and then the chart went up. It's hard to define in a sentence, but I know in those moments, anything that I've loved, whether it's an individual or a moment or a chapter, it's because I was so present in that moment. And I can look back and I think, like you said, it actually comes back to I grew from that in some cases. And the other thing too is like there can be moments when you don't love something and you actually fail. And this might be a bit like sadistic in some sense, but I think you can learn from all those moments. So being happy that that thing actually happened.
Yeah.
It can suck in the moment, but ultimately it does make you stronger. So I think that's how I would define it: is things that I love, events, people, moments. I find I'm so present in those moments. And I also do think when it comes back to entrepreneurship, I do think that there's most days you actually don't feel like doing it. But I do think, end of the day, it is hard not to love or fall in love with happy customers or users using whatever you're doing. Anything you do, you could be doing lawn repair, you could helping people set up stores, LLCs, whatever it is. If you put something in the world and other people get value from it and you do more of it, more people get value, that's fun. And then especially if people start paying you for that and the chart starts going up, that becomes fun. So I do think the results actually get addicting in that sense. And some people say, follow your passion. I actually think sometimes it's not best to follow your passion. Your passion doesn't have to be a business. In the context of entrepreneurship, your passion can be something that you do, and actually your job can be something that funds or fuels your passion. So sometimes merging them is a bad idea. I like exercise, but maybe it's not the best idea for that to be my business or full-time job. I can keep that on the side. But I think you might not be passionate about selling dog toys on Amazon. I was not. It'd be a lie if I said, hey, when I was 6 years old, I was thinking about helping people start LLCs. That's BS. I didn't know what an LLC was 4 years ago, being completely candid. Now I'm obsessed with LLCs. My social account says Arjun Mahadevan, Mr. LLC. Why? Because it's fun as hell to see people go through the journey, realize, wait a second, I can do this, and be a part of that journey with them. That came from the results. That was not the passion first. That was seeing results and realizing, whoa, this is a vehicle to actually having a massive impact. And I think ultimately everyone wants to have an impact.
I think we have been entrenched in entrepreneurship for a very long time. So that's why we're speaking more on like the mindset and the passion. But I also remember when I first started off in business, all I care about was just making a quick buck. Did you have the same mindset? And if so, what was your first venture? Was it LLC? I doubt it.
Something I want to ask, and I'll answer it too, is I do think that at any moment in time, if you boil it down, there's one of four main forces that is your main motivator. So the four main motivating forces are money, power, pleasure, or fame. So that's boiling it down. It could be multiple, but typically at a moment in someone's life, one of those four main forces is the main motivator. It sounds like, let me ask, like for you, or at least the you of today, what is the biggest motivator? Maybe it's the same as when you started too, but when you started at least, what was the biggest motivator out of those four?
I feel that since I started off my business, it's been 5-6 years, the evolution of myself has significantly changed. The person I am today is completely different from the person that started. What fueled me back then is completely opposite of what fuels me now. Back then, I was looking to make a quick buck, trying to just make money. I want to impress other people, want to live nice. And to a sense, there's still part of that. But as I continue evolving in business, you hit certain benchmarks, bro. Like once you hit your required standard of living in terms of money wise, you really start thinking of what is the purpose of what I'm doing for? When is it enough? Because I would argue, like, if you make $30,000 net income, you live like a king already, you know? So, like, why go for that 50? Why go for that 100? Why keep going? For me now, what drives me, I think you said money, power, pleasure,
Fame.
I think there's going to be a mix of all four. The biggest one right now that was in my head when you asked that was giving. I've been asked a lot recently, like, why did you start PeakFlow, Marcus? What drives you? Why are you doing all of this? I think it really just comes down to what you're trying to do for this world. I've really asked myself and pondered this question deeply. And I want to leave this world being a net positive to society. I want to leave this world having moved the human generation in whatever way I can. So in terms of power, I would say influence. I want to have a good influence on this world. I think that with media, with all these camera actions, there are certain voices that are more purported and certain narratives that are more spoken and volume up versus others that are kind of being shut down and censored. I think as long as I could have done my part into giving new perspectives, new ideas, new mindsets to people that might need it. Because, you know, me and you, we're founders, we're business owners. We've been doing this for a very long time. One of the things that makes us different from the crabs in the bucket is I think we have a belief in self. If there's anything that I was listening to what you were saying, and I had the same thing, and sometimes I really ask, like, what is that difference between someone that doesn't have that belief in self that they could do it versus someone that can? Because it's kind of like you look at the glass, and me and you might look at the glass as half full, but then someone else looks at it half empty. How? Why? So my motivator, I want to be a net positive to society. I found a way to be able to capitalize financially while also being able to actually change others. For those that don't know, I have a 6-month program. It's a one-on-one coaching program. But unlike other dropshipping courses, my goal of the program is to actually turn someone with no prior experience or little experience with business into someone that actually has, number one, a business model that works, right? The proof of concept with high-ticket dropshipping, which we'll talk about later, works. But what actually sets us apart from other courses, creators, and programs is precisely, I want to actually develop someone into a business-oriented, business acumen mindset. I want to actually change. And to do that, you have to kind of, in a sense, change their worldview, give them new perspectives. And then, like you said, when you start doing that, we're in the percentage of, you know, we might have left the bucket, but there are still a lot of crowds that are trying to leave, and there's still people pulling back. My question for you is, you know, at your stage, what motivates you and what are your factors? And I also just wanted to know, like, how has your experience been climbing out in between like friends, family? I'm so curious because I have my own, and let's talk about that.
It sounds like I like what you said, giving, which wasn't one of the 4 options, but it sounds like giving, which you can do more of with more power or influence. Because if you have that, that's the vehicle, but power is not the end all be all. It's not power so you can say, oh, look how big my team is, or power because, you know, look at my name on this chart. It's power because then I can give to the most number of people.
What I say matters.
What you say matters. You can reach people. For me, out of those 4, money, power, pleasure, or fame, fame is the biggest one. But the reason why it's fame is because I think that if I personally and using the company as a vehicle reach fame, it means we reach as many people as possible. And we reach those people and can inspire them to take action, start a business, or scale their business with us. So to me, that's the vehicle. It's also this idea of, in the grand scheme of things, our time on earth is a blip. It's here, it's done. Now, you might hear that and say, then what's the point of doing anything? That's not the action or mindset I have. I think it's like, wait, if I only have this blip on earth, I want to reach as many people as possible. I want to go out with a bang. Let's have the hugest impact here. So for me, the answer is fame, but fame because I want to have influence. I would agree. Easier said than done, but I think at a certain point, having disposable income is fantastic because it allows you to not have to stress about the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy, you know, having food or shelter or water. But then after that, really asking myself, do I want to reach a certain level of base or valuation in a business? I want it, or because I want to flex and post that somewhere and say, oh, this is my income or this is the business. And that's just for external validation.
I've had
Does that
that.
change anything internally? Not whatsoever. So then it comes back to, okay, really what I want is I want to feel like I've had an impact. I've left a ripple or dent in the universe. What scares me is I don't want to float through life. I want to leave a dent in the universe. I want to say I did this thing and that rippled out, and the people I worked with, the product we built, the impact we had, we did that. That didn't exist before. And I think that's the power of entrepreneurship, is that anything around you, the iPhone, planes, they were created by normal people. Don't get me wrong, they were incredibly disciplined, hardworking, smart, but they were normal people just like us who one day decided the world shouldn't be this way. I'm going to do something. So my answer to that is fame. And then with regards to climbing out of the bucket and what that's been like, I mentioned my parents earlier, how earlier I think they were kind of crabs in some sense, but they were doing it from a good place. I think the thing is that not everyone gets it. So even now, I actually don't think that for a company, raising capital is an indicator of success. It's maybe a data point, but if it was easy as if I raise money and the business works, then technically any company that's raised venture capital would succeed. Most companies die, even if they raise venture capital. So the ultimate proxy, it's not raising venture, it's not how much dollars you've raised, it's not how big your team is. Those are actually vanity metrics. I think the most important thing is how many happy, ecstatic, paying customers do you have? Money is a transfer of value. If someone's paying you for what you're doing, it's because they think they're getting value from that thing. So in terms of breaking out, with my parents, they candidly, they're both doctors. They don't fully understand what I'm doing. It's newer, but they see like, oh, wait a second, you have more customers, or oh, I guess you raised some money, so that must be a good sign. And I think now they've realized, okay, it seems to be working. With other folks, I do think that you don't necessarily have to break up with friends, but I definitely think I've gotten closer with certain friends, I've made new friends, and then I've grown away from other friends. I don't need to go back to old people and say, hey, I'm breaking up with you, never talk to me again. But I naturally spend less time with them or talking to them or thinking to them. I think I've gravitated towards other circles or areas where I think people are my version of the five chimps. And the five chimps theorem is something I think about probably too much. They studied these chimps in a zoo. They looked at five chimps, and they could actually predict the behavior of one chimp by looking at the other four. What time did those chimps wake up? What kind of food did they like? What were their moods? And that's because you are the average of the five people you spend the most time with. So I think about that a lot. I actually think all thoughts are downstream of information. Who are my friends? What are people saying in my group chats? Whether you like it or not, that's influencing how you think. When I open my Twitter feed, what am I reading? What videos am I watching? What content am I consuming? That's all part of this five chimps ecosystem there. So I do think you will graduate or shift away, and that comes from part of maybe your surroundings changing. Maybe you grew up in a certain town and now you're in New York City. So you're surrounded by maybe on the whole people who are hustling more ambitious or more energetic. It can have its pros and cons. Each city is going to have its own whispers. But I do think ultimately you will shift your circles. You will be around different people based on your goals. And that's not a bad thing. You know, again, you don't have to go up to someone in the past and say, hey, never talk to me again. I'm breaking up with you. But you can intentionally decide I want to spend more time with these people because I think they're going to level me up. And I think that's the cheat code, surrounding yourself with other people where just being in their presence makes you think, wait a second, I should rethink how ambitious I am. Or holy crap, just thinking about the way they thought about that problem helped me think about a new problem too. So I think really critically about who are my five chimps. And again, you don't have to like exercise the chimp or say, get out of here, chimp. But I can just say, hey, I have a new chimp I want to pull into my inner circle and be around them more or consume more content from them.
I feel very tremendous energy as I'm hearing those passion from your words. I could definitely see you being that crab that's trying to get out and then other crabs are pulling back and you just keep on fighting. I'm very much like the same way. When you were telling me about the chipmunk stories, the chimp stories, the five, it gave me a story that I remembered, which was, I don't know if this is true or not. I'm pretty sure it is. There was an experiment done by the CIA. It was about 80 people. 79 of them were CIA agents, but there was one that was the test subject. Now, what ended up happening was they grouped them together in a circle and they put a picture of a triangle up in front of everybody. And so they went one by one, 79 agents, all saying that it's a square, just to see what that last person would say. And that last person, even though knew it was a triangle, said square. And that experiment was an experiment of group thinking, very similar to what you're saying about the crabs in the bucket. So I thought that was really profound because I'm really trying to dissect and figure out like what makes that person, like, I mean, for me, right? If I saw a triangle, I'm saying it's a triangle. Like, and I'll stand for what I believe in. And I think there's a lot of or a contingent of people that they don't stand for what they believe in. They will, like you said, based off of the information that they were given, go into certain conclusions. But at the same time, you have to be able to think critically and look at if this source of information is credible. Misinformation is a real thing. And for you, how do you think you found that source of information? Like, when did you start thinking different? Like, were you thinking different since days of young? Or did it come to you as you started growing older? When did that shift start happening for you?
It's definitely been gradual. And there's so many times I'll read a book and say, holy crap, I should have read that 4 years ago. So many times I listened to a podcast and said, holy crap, I should have listened to that 10 years ago. And I don't think there's the balance being of nature versus nurture. Are you born this way, or does your environment matter? I actually think that your nature or your genetics, whatever, that contributes. But it's almost like hard work sets your floor. Anyone can work hard, regardless of your background, your DNA, whatever it is, and reach a certain place. But your talent can set your ceiling. There's this line I think about a lot, which is hard work beats talent until talent decides to work hard.
Yeah.
Which is true. Like, if someone's more talented, can jump higher than you, great. They can dunk, but if they're not willing to put in the reps and practice their free throws, then you'll have a higher free throw percentage. But at some point, if they start to practice their free throws, watch out. So I think in this case here, I don't think I was born an entrepreneur. I don't really think that concept, I don't really believe in that, because I do think, and they've done studies of this, where if you take a group of students in middle school, and they did this, they would take students, and there was like a gifted accelerated math class and the normal math class. They just randomly actually put students in the gifted class, randomly. So they didn't actually look at your scores. The kids who were not even gifted in math excelled in the gifted class, because the external perception was you were gifted, you're in this program. The nurture, your surroundings, that actually matters. So I do think the same thing here in entrepreneurship. You can level yourself up. You can create that by spending more time with other entrepreneurs or other people doing what you're doing. And I think that's the power of what you're building, and having a community of entrepreneurs around you, is that you aren't alone. You have to have a mentor or someone who can first teach you, but they were in your spot too. And then if you're around other people in the journey, a little bit ahead, a little bit behind, you will level yourself up. So I do not think you have to be born an entrepreneur. I think that's a bit BS to say anyone is. But I do think at a certain point in their life, they had these impactful moments, these nurture type moments, where they're like, wait a second, someone believes in me. Or wait a second, that person did a thing. They're kind of just like me. Maybe I can do that thing too. And then that's where that positive feedback loop and the flywheel starts to spin, where next thing you know, you look back and say, holy crap, like, I didn't know I was capable of doing this. But now you've built that identity or belief that I am an entrepreneur and I can do this. And that comes from going through the reps. You've seen, wait a second, I launched a product and someone bought it. That is what makes it. Like, when someone says I'm a skier, what does that mean? It literally means you think and say, I go skiing. I went skiing last month. I went skiing last year. I am a skier. It's literally the actions that define that identity, but creating that identity is important. And I think that identity has to come from, again, being around people, having someone you can trust, and someone who can teach you. So I do think that's, again, very powerful with what you're building, where people are coming in, they have this goal, I want to build a business or be an entrepreneur. And in your platform, in a fixed amount of time, if they take action and follow, they're able to actually build this high-ticket business. And I am very curious. I'd love to ask if you could define just very basically, like, what is high ticket versus low ticket, and in layman's terms, explain that. But I think it's very powerful, this motion of, hey, you can come in as long as you're willing to put in the reps, and your identity will shift over time. You can become an entrepreneur.
Yeah. So first off, high ticket versus low ticket. High ticket is selling more higher priced products. Low ticket is more lower priced products. In terms of the business person, the mindset, I talk to a lot of people every day, and there are, those how do I set up this ad for this ad group, those questions. I actually start to notice a pattern of, there are a lot of people that are actually just struggling with that mindset, because it's not just kind of like a 0 to 100 shift. It's a gradual progression, So I've always asked these questions of, how I asked you before, like, how did you get that self-belief in yourself? How did I find mine? Is it nature? Is it nurture? Is it in between? Because I'm trying to actually actively communicate that with my community so that they could take away from it and build upon themselves. Now, for me, a few things that really resonate with me when you said I'm a skier. I skied before, I ski now, I'll ski in the future. Confidence to me is having, I'm quoting Alex Hormozy, is having a stack of undeniable doubts that you are who you say you are. It's when you make promises to yourself and keep them. And I think many times people aren't able to have that leap forward with believing in themselves is because they can't even get past their bedtime. Like, you want to tell me you want to go get a vision and change the world and make millions of dollars per month. You cannot even wake up if your life depended on it. Of course, you don't have that belief that you could do it. You cannot even make the promises to yourself. So part of that change, when people come into my community, it sounds so inspiring. And I'm going to be, entrepreneur. It really comes down to me just like shitting on them and telling them like, dude, like we have to figure out what we're trying to do. And then we have to make sure you keep on doing it. And it's that accountability, it's that discipline. It's hard. Not everybody is able to just get up every day and do it, even when they don't feel like it. And that's really important too. I think it's being able to differentiate between logic and emotion.
It sounds like I like to think that in a business, there's these two key moments. There's the start, and then there's the scale. You can define scale at any point, but starting is actually really hard. It sounds like I wanted to ask you, what's the biggest mistake you see students make when they're saying, I want to start in e-commerce, I want to do high ticket. The biggest mistake when starting is they don't have any repetition or consistency whatsoever. It's the action. Then the next question I want to ask is, one, is that correct? And then two, what is the biggest mistake e-commerce entrepreneurs make when trying to scale a business? Let's say they actually have followed instructions. You've given them tough love. You said, hey, you got to go to sleep, wake up, and actually go build your campaigns, create your SEO content, whatever it might be. But yeah, what's the biggest mistake people make at start and scale when building an e-commerce business?
So that question can be answered in many ways because it's a very multifaceted question. The biggest thing that I learned recently that I wish I knew earlier was, if you want to make a successful business, the founders is really important. The actual entrepreneur themselves is very important. What makes me and my business partner, Trevor, different from other high-ticket dropshippers is simply because, number one, we know what's going on and we actually put in those reps. So the biggest problem for beginners when they first start off is that they don't know what they don't know. You don't know what you don't know, and that's opportunity cost. Every single day that you don't know how to make $1 million, you're costing yourself $990,000. So information is the key. Okay. Now, as you start acquiring more information, there are a few fundamental principles of business that's very important. Number one, you've mentioned it earlier before, product market fit, having the right product. Once you have the right product, you need to get people to come and buy the product. So that's marketing, that's the ads and stuff. But once you get people to see your product, you still need to build a sales team, because there's a difference between marketing and sales, to convert these people that seen your ad into a paying customer. And then after that, which is where most dropshippers fall off, is you don't have that fulfillment process. You're not taking care of your customers. You're not actually giving them that experience that they are when they paid you $4, $5, $10, $15, $20,000. I've had repeat customers come back to me, pay me $10, $20,000 for some of my high ticket lines of products simply because we had amazing customer service. How did that happen? Is because me, as a founder, made sure that my team understands that, okay, you cannot show up late. You must be prepared. You must follow up diligently. We must have systems and processes. Everything needs to be aligned. As long as we do this, and this, everything is going to follow. So as you start to scale, you're going to realize that you're only one person. Okay, so as a beginner, it's information. Now, as you start progressing, you have that information. It's execution. But execution is very hard because you need to be able to cover every area, and you can't do it by yourself. You just cannot. There's a really good quote. It goes, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, you go together, okay? And now, at my point in my career, it's bigger than me. PeakFlow, it's bigger than me. I could not be doing any of the things I'm doing, be on a podcast with you, if my team wasn't behind me, helping me, and, helping me, honestly. So I say that because when you start the company, in any business as well, I'm curious to know your thoughts. I learned this from my mentor, Brian Maconda. He just got interviewed by Ty Lopez. He was telling me how me and Trevor had to really differentiate. Trevor's my business partner, by the way. We had to differentiate our positions in the company. Because oftentimes many people go into business with a friend and you guys don't know your roles and you don't manage the expectations, and then you end up overlapping in workload, and then one person goes like, oh, you didn't do this, you could have done that better. You should go into business with your friend if you guys could cover different areas of the business. You understand what I'm saying? So, I had this really big realization I want everybody watching this to know, is that for you to start a great business, I'm not saying you need, but two types of personalities are required to make it really, really big. Number one is the visionary, someone that has growth strategy, someone that has innovation, someone that constantly has ideas. But just having vision won't get you far. I was a visionary. I have tons of ideas. I went to debt because I had so many ideas. You need someone that could integrate and properly assess and fine tune the systems as you build right now. So for me now, because this is just a crazy thing that I just wish I knew earlier, is that, yo, you should know who you are, Marcus. You should know what type of personality you are, because, you know, if I had known that I'm a visionary, I would know that every 10 ideas I have, only one is a game winner. Because I'm so emotional, I could be passionate. I feel like every idea is the next grand slam, but you need some practicality to it, okay? It goes in the saying of you need to have vision, but you also have to have practicality. So as I'm speaking to someone, especially as they start scaling, they start seeing traction with their e-commerce stores and business, I always say, like, it's great to have vision, but also make sure you have your expectations, realistic goals, practicality. It has to be a mix of both. And that's how you move it forward. It's constantly trying new things, but having calculated steps to try it because of the systems and processes. That is what I would recommend. And high ticket, low ticket, it's really just selling products. I tell people this all the time. It's not really just my community, even though, of course, I love everyone to join, that can help make you money online. As I start going into the digital world, I think every business model can help you make money online, right? Even though I shit on low ticket dropshipping, like, there are still people that are absolutely killing it. My problem is just that with dropshipping, and if you're gonna teach people how to go viral, the word virality means you stand out. How are you gonna teach everybody to stand out? It does not make sense. Like, think about it. Like, if everyone's gonna go viral, the word viral does not make sense. And so that's my problem that I had with low ticket dropshipping course careers. Of course it works, but it's not as easy as they make it seem. It's just not, okay? Now, with high ticket dropshipping, when I was going into it and learning it, you could say it was a blue ocean. Blue ocean, if nobody, like, if you guys don't know, is, you know, having really great market potential, opportunity. It's very blue. It's not bloody. It's full of life. What that also means is that there's no YouTube videos out there. So I had to really try and figure out a lot of the systems and processes on my own. And then that's when I partnered with Trevor, and we're like, oh, like, let's exchange and share strategies. And then one by one, we actually, number one, we 10x'd our stores, and we're like, oh, let's start. That's how we kind of started the momentum. But I say this because at the core of high ticket dropshipping, at the core of business in general, you just need to find a product that you could get for less than market value. Okay, like, that is what high ticket low. It's just, you find something that you could get below market point and you sell it to someone for higher. So let's say we have the product, okay? Whether that's a low ticket dog nail clipper or a luxury massage chair, that's the product. Okay, so you have your margin. The next thing is you need the marketing. You need a way to get eyeballs to your store, because you could have the best product in the world, but if nobody knows about it, if you don't know how to position yourself in the marketplace, ain't nobody gonna do anything about it, bro. So you have to have your marketing. So that was the difference, okay? Facebook ads and Google ads. Most beginners are caught up with the mainstream dropshipping. Facebook, TikTok, let's go viral. Fair, you could do that. But why not just position yourself for where the money's at? Why not position yourself for the market? How do you do that? With Google, you're using search, pay per click versus direct to consumer. Direct to consumer is like they're scrolling, mindless scrolling, boom, pattern interrupt, get them to buy. Versus if someone searches on Google, they probably have more purchase intent. If someone goes on Google, they search for alarm clock. You know, they might be interested in buying the alarm clock. If someone searches buy alarm clock, they're gonna go and want to buy an alarm clock. So I use that type of psychology, and I invested my last $2,000. I remember I was, when I first started, I was doing sneaker reselling. So I understood the process of, like, let's find something for low and sell for higher. Made some money from there, and then I was trying it all on my own. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on mentorship later, but I got scammed a bit, and I was down to like my last 2,000, I remember. And I was like, should I continue with Facebook? Should I try Google? I have no idea how to do Google, though. So I remember I went on YouTube. I found my first OG mentor that really changed my life, Sri Kanase. I had 2,000 to my bank. I invested 500 on a payment plan. He's gonna charge me 1,500 for like 3 to 6 months. And then he taught me how to run Google ads. And I cannot even kid you, if you go back to my life, it would be like I was down, and all of a sudden I just took a leap of faith. I was like, you know what? Like, if anything, like, I'll just get another pair of shoes. Like, you know, and then next month, 12,000, 30,000, 50,000. So it was really enlightening. But I'm saying this because the idea of winning product and all of this stuff, you guys just have to look at things from first principle. You know, you have a first principle, right? So for the viewers that don't know what first principle is, you want to look at it as like 1 plus 1 equals 2. Therefore, 50 plus 50 equals 100. So what if I told you 1 plus 1 equals 3? Changes everything. Okay, so the first principles of business is have the product. So high ticket, low ticket, just have a product. Marketing, which is instead of Facebook, we use Google. And after that, once you have the right traffic come in, that's like half the game. Now you just have to build a team that understands the processes, get them closing. And then once you get the order, you just have to manage and follow through. And that's the thing, as I continue sharing the information with the community, you realize that you could give all the information, but it's the implementation that nobody does. You know what I mean? It's the implementation that's what we're capitalizing on. Because guess what? If you're watching this right now and you're saying like, oh, dropshipping doesn't work, this and that, bro, I have a free course that people have gotten their first high ticket sales on. Like the information is there. They're just not informationing, you know? So that's the few principles I learned is that, you know, you should, in the business, you need to have a team. But when you first start off, it's only by yourself. So really be aware of your skill sets because your strengths and weaknesses probably play a lot. I'm curious to know what are your thoughts on your strengths and weaknesses. I'd love to share mine, but I want to hear yours first. Like, what would you say?
That was awesome. I want to tie the biggest issue you mentioned around starting and scaling back to what I see on the, let's call it the back office side of things, LLC, bookkeeping, tax, etc. The first thing you said around the information's out there. It is for anything. The information's out there on how to build your health, build a business. Information's out there on, hey, meditation actually has benefits. So why don't people exercise, I don't know, whatever it might be. Here's what's probably healthy for your diet. All the information's out there. Not everyone does it. Why? Because they have to take action. So I think step one, I see it at the start scale is you got to take action. That could be signing up for the course. It could be starting your actual business. It could be deciding to download the PDF and actually read the guide, but then get to bed on time and wake up the next day and do it and do it a couple times. But taking action is key. I think at the start phase, if you take action, action produces information. It might be the wrong action, but with that information, you can iterate. Feedback loops. Facebook didn't work. Boom. Wait a second. You're in the position where you're even now thinking about doing Google. Otherwise, you're just fantasizing, saying, what if I started a business? So at the start scale, I would say taking action is the most important thing. After that, though, the concept of product market fit, I think, is so key because most businesses fail. And most businesses fail because it's not an offer or something people need. That's it. A business at the end of the day is someone buying your offer or product. My favorite visual of product market fit is there's this question of, okay, let's say you were starting a hot dog business. What is the most important quality your hot dogs need to have? And you ask this to a group and some people will say, oh, the taste. Like the hot dog's obviously got to taste good. Others might say the size, like it's got to be a jumbo hot dog. Like I don't want a little mini hot dog. I want the jumbo one. Others might say, oh, it's the branding. Like it's got to pop. It's got to slam. It's got to be this D2C sexy brand on the hot dog logo. And people will go around and go around and go around. And none of that's the answer. The most important thing for a hot dog brand is a starving crowd. If you have the shittiest hot dogs in the world, pardon my French, but you are in Fenway Park and every other hot dog person's on vacation, your hot dogs could taste like crap, the branding could suck, but you're going to make millions that day because you're the only person, the crowd is starving. So it's the market. The market's actually the single most important thing. You could be terrible at sales, you could have a terrible product, but if the market's there, the market will pull you. Now, even if the market's decent, the next thing is actually having an offering or product that works or a good offer. So I think the market always wins. If a bad team or a bad product meets a fantastic market, you'll get preyed along. Let's say the market's decent for dog toys, wherever it might be. You could have a really good product too. So actually having a product which is below the market price, and that'll work. Then I think the third thing is, look, even if you don't have a good market or you have a bad product, if you're just good at sales, you can compete that way too. I could have bad hot dogs, you could have bad hot dogs, but on the sales call, you're just gonna like me more and I'll be a better salesperson. That works, it's just hard to do. So the point of this is you have to start, and then ideally, you're in a fantastic market. Ideally, you have a good product, and ideally, you're good at sales, but you need one of those three things to work in whatever the offer is. So at the start scale, I would say information's out there. You got to take action, and then ideally good market, ideally good product, or ideally, you're just good at selling something. Once you do that, shifting towards the scale, and let's define scale as you're making 5K per month. It could be 1K, but let's say you've made it to a point with 5K in a month and you're at that point. I completely agree. The single biggest issue stopping you from scale is yourself. Because what got you there is, I'm going to do it all. Why? Because I don't have a team. It's just me. There's no team. I don't have money to pay for a team, or I have to go figure this out. How can I expect someone else to figure it out? In this blue ocean, there's no guide or book on how to do this. I have to go create my own category. I have to go figure out what offer resonates here. I have to go get punched in the face and fail on this platform and get here. But boom, you made it to this point. So I think the hardest lesson to unlearn is, one, you can find people who are better than you at certain things. And it's not an ego thing. I think it's just hey, this is my business is my baby. Like, I don't want this thing to go worse, but you can find other people out there who can do different parts of the stack better than you. The other thing though is finding what you are uniquely good at. The flip for me was, it's actually a disservice if I try to hold on to things because I'm not doing the thing that can help everyone. Maybe it is the podcast, maybe it is sales, maybe it is product, maybe it is customer success, whatever it is. By you not doing that, it's a disservice to the rest of the company too. So I think the single biggest mistake we see at the scale stage is, have you ever met someone running $1 million business who's doing their own books and taxes every month? I mean, maybe they're involved, but if you're spending hours of your time on that every single month, you are going to slow down your scale. I'm not saying don't have knowledge on that, don't have information on that, but think about at the highest stages. I don't know. Elon Musk probably knows his company's financials really well, but I can tell you sure as hell, he is not adding transactions to QuickBooks. There is no way in hell he is. That's a disservice to humanity, actually. If he's adding transactions to QuickBooks, we're not going to Mars. So that's maybe an extreme example here, but think about your business right now. In the case of bookkeeping or taxes or any back office, I'm not saying don't know it. You need to know it crystal stone cold clear, but you will not be able to scale yourself or your business without learning to delegate. And with delegating, I think it actually comes down to one, you have to create the processes, the systems, you define those yourself, no one else will. But then you need to have someone you can trust, the who can actually do it. Otherwise, if you don't trust the person doing it and you're watching over them, you might as well just do it yourself. And that's not a good solution too. So I think you have to start in the details, create the SOP yourself or the standard operating procedure, then start to pull yourself out. So I think that is the single biggest mistake. It's held me back. It's held entrepreneurs I see at that scale stage, is that you have to start to delegate parts of the stack. And in the case of, let's call it your full back office, if you could work with someone who's done bookkeeping or taxes for thousands of people, just like you in e-commerce, and you can trust, you have to trust it's going to get done properly, but earn that trust, see it's actually done. And that frees up hours of time for you to actually do more sales calls.
Time's valuable.
Or build the product. That is going to 10x your business eventually. Again, I'm not saying you can't scale your business by doing this, but it's going to be an anchor. It's going to kind of be a weight pulling you down there. So at start, information, you got to take action. At the scale stage, you've got to start to delegate. And if you do those things, what you're really doing is you're putting on a different hat or changing your costume. That's, I think, the hardest thing to do. It's a good problem to have at that stage. And then I'm sure at the next level of business at 50K or 500K, there's going to be another transformation that you have to make there too.
So let's bounce off from that. You mentioned problems that you're making. What problem does DOOLA solve?
If an entrepreneur in e-commerce, let's say you're selling on Shopify or on Amazon, let's say you're deciding to start a business, and your goal, because you don't just start a business, again, yes, the journey matters, but the destination is what you're going towards. That's why you decided to start. So let's say your goal is, I want to build $1 million business. Okay, so the first thing is you might go to Google and you'll type in how to start a business on Shopify. And you're going to get a migraine because you'll find a Reddit post that says you should form an LLC. You'll find a Quora post that says be a sole prop. And then you'll find 4 other posts that tell you 4 different things. You'll read a blog. There's just misinformation, but it's not intentional, but it's conflicting. So you get a migraine thinking, holy crap, I just want to know the right thing. So then you might pay a lawyer like I did. Unfortunately, a lawyer typically tells you 11 things you shouldn't do. I will tell you the one thing you should do. So that's our goal with DOOLA, is like, we'll tell you the one thing you should do. Again, talk to a professional, but you don't want to hear 11 things that you might hypothetically want to keep in mind. What's the one thing you should do? So step 1 is actually, should I form an LLC or a C Corp, right? Should I form an entity? Technically, you don't have to form an entity. But I would say, like, if you don't want to actually start a business and grow it, I don't think you're that serious. You're not going to scale a business. If you have ambitions of scaling to any point, you're going to need an entity to have a bank account for the credibility, for the liability protection. Business banking opens up certain payment gateways like Shopify payments. So step 1 is, should I start an entity? I think you should at some point. I actually think starting the entity makes it feel more real. You're like, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a business, which matters from the mindset. So step 1, should I form an entity? I'll answer the question. If you're raising US venture capital, form a C Corp. It's as simple as that, because US investors will require a Delaware C Corp. If you're not, an LLC is the way to go. Limited liability company. And to answer one more, the next question, what's the best state to form in? If you live in the US, you should typically form in the state you live in, because that's where you're doing business. If you live outside the US, you can choose any state. Wyoming and Delaware are typically the two most popular. If you had to recommend one, I would say pick Wyoming. It's slightly cheaper. You can't go wrong though. Your business is your choice. The next thing is you've got your entity. You got to get your bank account. So you need this thing called an EIN, and then you need a bank account. Now the bank account's important because it allows you to connect to Shopify payments, or it allows you just to get paid. Your EIN's important because certain vendors or suppliers might actually require that. And ultimately, I think the big thing, which again, you shouldn't sleep on, is the credibility. You're no longer a freelancer. You're an actual business
owner,
which is huge from a personal perspective, but also that alone helps you win business because people want to work with businesses. They don't need to know it's just you. That's okay. But they know you're a business. So that's the setup portion. Then the next thing is, and you might get the sense here, wait a second. So there's this like entity I need, then this EIN. We haven't even talked about a registered agent, which is a person in a state who's a liaison between the IRS and the state for any tax notices. That's a requirement too. You then need to get a bank account, but the journey's just begun. Now you actually need to file taxes at the state level and at the federal level. If you're a single member non-US LLC, there's this form called Form 5472. It's an informational filing. You actually might not have to pay taxes in the US, but if you don't file that form or file it late, there's a $25,000 fine. Holy crap, let me go to the IRS website. Boom, you got another migraine. The IRS website looks like it was built in the AOL era with crayons. That's federal taxes, that's state taxes. What about, wait a second, how do I do my taxes? Well, I need to make sure my books are in order. What is bookkeeping? It's quite literally organized transactions so that a CPA can file your taxes. That's all bookkeeping or accounting is. And it's also important to know, am I losing money or am I making money, right? If you don't know how much cash is going in and out. So that's actually, I didn't know what bookkeeping or accounting was. Really what it is, to boil it down, is it's just simply making sure your transactions are in order so that at tax season, you can submit your taxes. Why submit your taxes? Because you have to. There's what? Two certainties in life, death and taxes. You can't avoid death, you can't avoid taxes. I wish you could. If you listen to anyone who says you can avoid paying taxes, no, I don't condone that. You will have to pay taxes, so make it as easy as possible. So this is a long-winded way of saying every single thing I described. Did I mention the word product once? Did I mention the word sales once? No. All of that, though, sucks up so much time. So DOOLA exists because we believe, first principles, it doesn't make sense to have 6 different partners or vendors to manage that critical part of your business. They should be unified. They should be in one place. Why? Because if it's in one place, you can actually bundle things together to reduce costs. You can pass those costs along to customers, so it's cheaper. You can actually increase efficiency. You don't have to go to 4 places. You can have it in one. And you save time and stress, which means you can spend it on building and growing your business. So that's why we exist. Our belief is it doesn't make sense to have formation here and bookkeeping here and tax here. We are a business in a box for e-commerce. Everything you need to start your business and then scale it, and we're with you each step of the way. Yes, we use technology, but you have a dedicated human you can talk to.
Wow.
I actually believe AI is fantastic, but people don't care about AI unless it's going to help you. So can the AI help you or can a person help you? I think people want to work with a person. That doesn't mean AI can help in the background, but we are building a business in a box for e-commerce entrepreneurs to start and scale their Shopify business or their Amazon business and be with them at every point of the way. Coming back to, again, first principles. Should these things be separate? Should I have to pay someone by the hour for a process that can be done once? No. Simple pricing, you get a dedicated person you can talk to, and it's all in one place. That's the goal of DOOLA.
E-commerce in a box, DOOLA.
Business in a box for e-commerce entrepreneurs.
That's, you say you're not in sales or whatever. That was a hell of a pitch, and I really liked it. And as we conclude this podcast, I think the viewers know what DOOLA stands for and the problems that you solve in the marketplace. So I wanted to conclude it with the problems that I solve in the marketplace, okay? So right now, me personally, I have a coaching program where I teach people high-ticket dropshipping. But the core question of what does dropshipping solve in the marketplace needs to be answered. A lot of people think that dropshipping is just about finding this winning product and then making, $10,000, $100,000 in a month and get a Lamborghini. No, that's way too surface level, okay? Dropshipping has a solution to a problem. Dropshipping, you don't want to look at it as sales. You want to look at it as customer service. You want to look at it as fulfillment, okay? Because when we come in as a dropshipper, the problem that we solve is communication. And a lot of people don't understand that once you have the right product, the supplier could sell the product, but why are you in the line? Why are you in the chain of command? It's because you have to be really due diligent with the communication process between the point of exit from the product to your customer and just making sure that entire journey is a worthwhile experience. And I think that was the first principle that Amazon founded themselves upon. And now they're like the low ticket e-commerce gods. I'm trying to do the same, but in high ticket. And I think if you guys could walk away just understanding that business is number one, self-improvement, self-developing. It's about solving the problems in the marketplace that other people aren't willing to do so, and just leading the world with your ideals, your vision, and then actually just turning into fruition with the people around you. Thank you so much for your time. I honestly, time flew by for me. I had a whole line of questions to ask, and I don't even know if I think we did cover it, but overall, it was my pleasure. Where could people hear more about you, and where could people find you?
Yeah, this was awesome. I think what I really like is that there's so much that needs to happen to actually start a business and scale a
Right.
business. And I ultimately think a rising tide lifts all boats. So there's many ways or people you can work with to start a business. There's many people out there trying to educate you on how to start scale your e-commerce business too. But we're all in the same mission trying to help create more entrepreneurs. I think that's a good mission. That's more entrepreneurs means more great products, more great offers. I think that's a better place to be in this world. Doola.com. I'm on social at Arjun Mahadevan on Twitter, on LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, all the main platforms. And the biggest thing I will say is that it's never too late to actually turn your dream idea into your dream business. There's so many examples of this outside of entrepreneurship. Morgan Freeman got his first big role when he was in his 40s. The founder of Zoom, which we use for video conferencing, was in his 40s too. Ariana Huffington started the Huffington Post. She was 54. The founder of Orange Theory, the workout class you've probably seen, she was in her 50s. She got fired from her job, decided to start that business. So age does not matter in entrepreneurship. It's taking action. I think, again, it comes back to this mindset of, oh, I'm too old to do it. Entrepreneurs are actually younger when they start. No, entrepreneurs come from everywhere. They look like anything. They can be any age too. So kudos to what you've built. It's incredible. I think actually it's God's work to actually create entrepreneurs and then scaling their businesses and supporting them too. I think we're doing some really impactful stuff. And I think that's really, again, coming back at the end of the day, leaving an impact is what everyone wants. So really, really impressed by what you've built so far. And together, hopefully, I ultimately think anyone who has access to an internet connection can be an
Yes.
entrepreneur. There's 4 billion people with internet access. That number should hopefully go up. So that's a lot of potential entrepreneurs. And I think we can reach billions of people if, again,
Yeah.
with content, with people coming in, with trust, I think anyone can start a business. And once you have that scratch, or once you have that itch to start a business, you can't unscratch it.
Right. We live in the times of the digital gold rush, much like the times when people were migrating to California for the gold in 1848. Is the same exact opportunity landscape right now, but with the digital gold mined. And I hope you guys had an amazing time as
Where
much
can
as I
people
did.
find you on social too?
People could find me at Marcus Slam Official. You could find my partner at Official Trevor Zheng. You could also find us at peakflowcommunity.com. And I'll end it with my quote, rise to your peak, flow to your rhythm. Thank you so much for your time, bro. Appreciate
Awesome,
you.
man.
Thank you.